Let's understand now regarding the reproductive methods found in the fungi. So fungi reproduce by all the three methods. One method is vegetative reproduction, second is asexual reproduction, and third is the sexual reproduction. Now the vegetative reproduction it occurs by fragmentation, fission, and budding. So we all know what is fragmentation. In fragmentation, the mycelium gets broken into smaller pieces, and these pieces are called as fragments due to the mechanical injury as well as for decay, and each of these fragment or pieces will grow to form a complete new fungus or mycelia. So this is a type of fragmentation. In case of fission, the unicellular fungi like the yeast divides into two daughter cells, and in the case of budding, small outgrowths grow out from the parent cell and it ultimately separates to form the new individual. In the 10th class, you have already learned about budding in the case of yeast. So you know fission as well as budding both are possible in the case of yeast. Now there is a term which is called as Clarosia. Sclerotia is a compact vegetative mycelium and is meant for perination. Perination stands for passing over the unfavorable condition. So when the conditions are unfavorable, it is possible to see sclerotia developing in fungi and rhizomorphs developing in fungi. Rhizomorphs are subterranean compact mass of mycelium. Both of these structures help in survival under the unfavorable condition that is called as perination. So this is how buddings take place. You have done this thing in the 10th class, and this is how fission is possible in the case of yeast. Now the next method of reproduction is the asexual reproduction. It occurs through the formation of different types of spores. So there are various types of spores. Let's learn about few of them. First, spores are basically the single cell structure. These are minute microscopic single cell structures. They may carry a thick wall, they may carry a thin wall, depending upon whether they are formed in the favorable condition or they are formed in the unfavorable. If a spore is formed in the unfavorable condition, it should develop rather a thick wall because it has to provide protection to the structure enclosed inside and wait for the favorable time to come back for germination. In the case of a spore formed in the favorable condition, should carry a thin wall because it needs minimum time. Because conditions are most favorable, it has to quickly germinate to develop into a new individual. So zoospores are the first asexual reproductive spores. So they are naked motile spores with flagella. Okay, now a spore can carry a flagella. If flagella is there, then 100% the spores are released in water, and such spores are motile. So they are produced in aquatic fungi or fungi which grow in the damp surfaces, and they are produced in the structure inside a structure. That means they are endogenous. Endogenous means forming inside. So they are formed inside a bag-like structure called as zoosporangia, and they are produced in some phycomycetes. For example, Phytophthora and Albugo. These are the scientific names of two fungi. Now the next one are the Sporangio spores. Now Sporangio spores are non-motile spores produced. They are produced inside the sac-like structure called as sporangia. Now in this case, spores are non-motile. Remember, zoospores are motile with flagella. So because these Sporangio spores are non-motile, they are released in air. That means they are produced by those fungi which are terrestrial in their habitat. So they are produced by zygomycetes. Zygomycetes is the group of fungi which prepares these sporangiospores, and these fungi are terrestrial and these spores are released in air. For example, mucor and rhizopus, both of them are bread molds. Now the third type of asexual reproductive spores are the Conedia. Conedia are non-motile exogenously produced spores which are formed on conidiophores in a basipetal manner. So what is basipetal manner? The spores are added from the bottom, and that means the topmost they will be formed in a chain like manner. So obviously because they are formed from the bottom, the topmost spore is going to be the most mature one and it will separate, followed by the less mature one. So such an arrangement is called as basipetal arrangement. So these are non-motile Spores, remember zoospores and Sporangio spores are endogenously produced, but Conedia are exogenously produced, and they are formed in a chain-like manner, and they are produced by the higher fungi, mainly the Ascomycetes, example Penicillium, as well as Aspergillus. Now the next one is Oidea. Oidea are the individual cells separated from the hyphae. So sometimes in certain situations, change salt concentration, sugar concentration, the cells of the hyphae may separate and will become, they will remain as thin-walled, and then they will develop round surfaces or round ends, and such type of structures take part in fragmentation are called as oidea, for example Rhizopus. The next type, the fifth type of spores possible are chlamydospores. Now remember, chlamydospores are also called as resting spores because they develop when the situations are becoming unfavorable. So these are thick wall perinating spores, thick because they have to provide dormancy and protection inside to the surviving structure. So they are thick walled perinating spores produced intercalary, that means they are produced in between, not at the ends but in between the hyphae, and they are, for example, Rhizopus.